everybody, Zach Haydorn with Brass Ring Media, continuing our series talking to students and wrestlers from the Wrestling Academy and Freelance Wrestling. Geez, easy for me to say. Today, I am here with Alfredo. Fredo, man, it is great to talk to you. You have, I think, one of the more unique journeys through freelance wrestling and through the Freelance Wrestling Academy. And the big student show is coming up next week, March 9th, where you're going to make your debut.
Yes, sir.
First of all, how's life going, man? And second of all, how pumped are you for that match next week?
Man, life is going pretty good, Zach. I can really say really blessed. Blessed has the opportunity. Like you said, man, it's been quite an interesting journey. Did not expect to happen this soon or so late, depending how you see it. But yeah, heavily stoked. I will say, I'd be lying if I said I have butterflies in my stomach, a little nervous, a little shaked up. But hey, looking forward to just making an impact, and hopefully, the time was worth it.
Absolutely, man. And hey, look, if you didn't have butterflies, I think that'd be weirder than if you that you do. That means you care, man. That means you care.
Absolutely, man. I put a lot of heart, a lot of sweat and tears, like they say. So absolutely, when I get in that ring, gonna be all hard out there, man.
So tell me, man, just how did you get started at Freelance, and how did you get started with the academy, and just your journey to opening the door to the school for the first time? What was that all like?
Man, the only word to describe it, Zach, would be a godsend. A gift, a blessing. Not too long ago, it was a really low point in my life, and I decided, man, I gotta really clean up my character. I need some kind of guidance, clean myself up. And funny enough, it all started at a church. I went to church to kind of get some spiritual guidance, fix up myself. I met Angel, as you all know, Angel Escalera from Freelance Wrestling as well. I met him. He told me, hey, I heard you're a great wrestling fan. Do you like it? Like, absolutely love it. And he's surprising one that he goes, come with me. And sure, what? We go to about Damon Avenue, Pro Wrestling Tees. That's the big old logo of Freelance Wrestling. And I was like, yo, what is this? And he's like, the Independence, the capital city of independent wrestling, Chicago. And that's how the journey started, man. That's how I got my start back in November of 2020. Yeah, so it's been a while, November 2020. And the time is fast forwarded. We are here now getting ready to, do our part and get up in the ring.
So what was your first impression of your first day at wrestling school? I mean, there's all there's all the stories out there, but what about for you, man? I mean, what was the first?
I'm about to add to it, actually. So I just showed up with some really heavy shoes, some really heavy Nikes and joggers, and I was like, it's probably gonna be orientation. I was so wrong. I still remember vividly. We had Castro, Matt Nix, and Chico Suave in the ring. They told us, get in. We're doing drills. Zach, when I told you I was not prepared for that, sir, I was not ready for that. I had never been so physical in my life. I had a really bad coffee habit, so I had just drunk a Trenta Starbucks iced coffee. I'm going to let you use your imagination as to what happens when an out-of-shape person who just got off coffee gets in there and does, 2 hours of intense cardio? I'm gonna let you figure out what I did in the bathroom after that, all right?
All right. It won't take me very long to figure out how that went.
Yeah, not good. No bueno.
Well, so then, what was the first step? What did you feel like you really, because I mean, you have every opportunity not to go back, right? I mean, it's hard work, it's hard on your body, it's hard mentally, it takes time. So there's just like anything else that you got to put your mind to. There's always a reason to say, oh, you know what? I'm just staying home. After an experience like that, what kept you coming back?
Man, honestly, it goes back to how I said earlier, it's a godsend gift. I believe it or not, one of the farthest recollections I have in my memory was watching WWF and WCW with my family, including my father and his side of the family. So that always stuck with me. My mom teaching me lucha libre. So in a way, that was always in my mind. And believe it or not, I used to tell everyone in school, whether it be elementary, high school, college, they're like, hey, what do you want to do in life? I'm like, man, I would really love to be a wrestler. So, when I was in that small period of just being lost, needing guidance, when Angel told me, hey, you have an opportunity to make it a reality. I just need you to commit to it. Can you commit to it? And man, ever since that day, spoke volumes to me, Zach. And you're right. very intense, Dave. It took a couple of days for me to go back after that first class, but I always kept in the back of my mind, like, wow, Alfredo, we are so blessed and fortunate to have this opportunity that many would want in your shoes. You dreamt about this. You wished this since you were a child. Can you do it? And I always told myself, we're gonna do it. No matter what happens, we're gonna stick right with it.
When did you start to like feel that you maybe not that you obviously not that you knew everything, but that like the jolt of like starting wrestling for the first time wore off and you were like more ready physically and mentally? Like how long did that take?
It took a long time. I will say
Okay.
that. And, there's a lot of reasons why I would agree with you that my journey was unique. Unfortunately, I was one of the few that does really that off and on stuff. Like you do one class, you take a break, you come back, and, for many different reasons, whether it was because you had to, emergencies, passing the family, a lot happened. And man, the one time that really sticks in my mind, it was on a random day. Isaiah's, the head trainer, Isaiah Velasquez, he texted me. He goes like, hey, I've seen your name around here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I gave him the whole spiel. Like, hey, Angel brought me in. I go to class once a week. I love wrestling. I want to make it happen. And he challenged me. Without him knowing me, see my face, he challenged me. He says, how many times you show up? Once a week. He goes, do you think that's commitment? Do you think you showing up once a week proves anything? And he told me straight up, like, hey, you sound like you want to succeed. I've seen you around for setups. I want to help you out. So please, I would ask as a trainer, be more consistent. And that right then and there, it took a couple of weeks. But kind of like you say, it got to the point where the jolt was finally gone. I said, man, we can keep up. Let's do this. We were off to the races after that.
Nice, man. And so what were some of the hardest parts of training, like whether it's a drill or move set or like spots? Like just talk a little bit about just the challenges, and I'll ask the other side of the question in a minute here. But what were the hardest parts of like learning to become a professional wrestler?
So two things. The first one you said, the mental discipline, the physical discipline. You got to put your part to get the spots going, do the drills. And as somebody who never really worked out intensely, my weight was a huge challenge, believe it or not. I was a little heavier when I first started, and even sometime last year. And it was challenging. There were certain basic things I could not get done. My cardio was atrocious. It was a nightmare. And kind of like I said, you got to do commitment from one side of the spectrum to the other. So outside of my free time, I did what I had to do to get into slightly better shape, lose some weight, get into the cardio stuff. The other things would be, at least for me personally, I really struggle getting through spots, not just because of the workout stuff and the physical conditioning. It was the mental game. I used to really psych myself out, Zach. My nerves were really bad. And in a way, I almost doubted myself daily. It got to the point where this dream kind of in my mind became a nightmare. And I was like, yo, Alfredo, can you do this? Did you bite off more than you could chew? That I would say was my greatest enemy, myself, my mindset. And that took a while to brush off myself.
That's a great answer. And then on the flip side, what's something that happened in training or where you're like, man, I get this. What's your favorite part of like going to the school and working out and with the other people in the class and the trainers? Like, what's your favorite part about that process, as hard as it can be?
Of course. And it's the same as many things. Like I would say the greatest part is when you finally get it going. You got to the spot, you communicated well, you get your props like, hey, Fredo, you really showed out there, man. That was great. That sense of, I wouldn't say validation, but just that accomplishment, like, hey, man, you're doing this one step closer to the goal. It is a very indescribable feeling. And I would say that has to be the best part. Like you get to tell yourself, you're doing this, man. You really are. Just one step at a time, but you're doing this.
What did it feel like to get the call or getting sat down and going, hey, run the ropes, student show 2024, you're going to get your first crack at it, man? How did that feel? Or how did it happen? And how did it feel?
So obviously once you impress the trainers, and you get the stuff going and they see it in you, like, hey, he is ready for the races. Let's go. These past couple of days, we've been getting called up for practice matches, and based on the critique, they tell you what you got to work on, what's good, what they like. And I saw a couple peers, they got called up, people who were there maybe a little longer than me, a little less time than me. And I was like, I get it, they're doing the work. So one day, suddenly, I promise you, I just got called up and they're like, hey, give me a practice match today. And I was like, oh, shoot, I'm not ready for sure. um, and I did what I had to. I did my practice match. They gave me my critique. And, man, a surreal moment, which I don't think I'll ever forget. I hope I don't. After I'm done getting critique, I was just told, like, hey, you're good, good stuff. So I was like, all right, it is what it is. Maybe next year we'll try again, right? And that's when they simply told me, now put it into practice March 9th because we will see you at Run the Ropes. And I remember just in my head, just staying still. And I was like, like I didn't comprehend. Like, what'd you say? And everybody just woke up in a roar of applause, cheering me on. I was like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? They're like, we will debut you March 9th. Be ready for that. And it was very surreal, Zach. It really is one of the greatest memories I have in recent time, I could say for sure.
Man, that's amazing, man. And so now what? Now what? How do you prepare so they make sure that you kick the doors off those hinges, man, on March 9th? What do you obviously you got to train and you got to, get the match down and all that, but how else are you making sure that you're mentally ready and physically ready to make the most of that opportunity?
Absolutely. So, at least from the outside perspective, from the school itself, I'm doing my part more than ever. I got into a recent calorie deficit. I'm doing my sprints around the block when I can. And ever since I got announced for the show, I've actually lost 5 pounds. So, I guess I'm doing something right. I'm like, all right, let's get it. But at the same time, when I go to class, you just got to bring that intensity. We were bringing it 100, then 2, then 3. Now, I really telling myself, all right, Alfredo, you got your booking, but things don't fight fast. There might be somebody surpassing you eventually, so now you got to kick it 500. If it's not 500, we're not doing enough. And even after class, I do my shared time to stay behind, and I told fellow classmates, hey, keep working me on ABC. Can we run this spot again? So it's just really be more consistent with the material being presented and doing your part outside and inside of the academy for your well-being.
What do you watch outside, obviously, outside of the freelance product to either get inspired or study, to study professional wrestling and watch, certain things that you're taught? Like, where do you go in terms of like getting that, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to study wrestling for a while, not me in the ring, but me watching on
For
television?
sure. So at this point, whether it's just for entertainment purposes, but also for my studying, everything, WWE, TNA, AEW, Lucha Libre. I watch both promotions, Lucha Libre as well, New
Wow.
Japan. And even now and then, like yesterday, I have free time. So I put Eddie Guerrero when he was called Black Tiger versus Pegasus Kid. And they had a great chaining segment. Eddie Guerrero with Ultimo Dragon, another great match from WCW Cruiserweight days. So I really try to go everything that I can reach out just to learn something a little different from everybody and everything as well.
Yeah, good answer. All right, so here's last question, and it's
Sir.
maybe maybe it'll put you on the spot a little bit, but there's nothing wrong with that. So
Okay.
look, man, you're on a show. It's March 9th for those of you who are wondering and those who want to check it out at the Freelance Wrestling Academy. March 9th. It's Run the Ropes. It's a student show, but a lot of freelance favorites will be there as well. So it's definitely something that you're going to want to check out in person or on IWTV on March 9th. Fredo, there's a lot of students on that show, and there's a lot of people
Absolutely.
that are going to want to, make their mark, make their name for themselves. You guys are students, and you guys are partners, and you guys and girls are a family, but you're also competing for spots. How
Of
do
course.
you make sure that you differentiate yourself from others that are going to be on that show that are looking to get the same exact thing as you?
Man, that's a really great tough question, Zach. I'm not gonna lie to you. That's a really tough one. And you're right about that. Um, wow, man, that really got me thinking for a second now. I mean, obviously with the obvious of like, hey, you can't do their moves, you can't do their gimmicks. You're right. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself. And right now, I guess all I could say is, man, I really want to welcome people to my journey. Kind of you put it earlier. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey to get the booking. Now we got to continue the journey of going to see how this goes for being a wrestler. So I guess all I could offer in the moment, I welcome everybody, my peers, my teachers, the fans, the freelance faithfuls, we call them. I welcome them to walk with me my journey to begin my story. In the wrestling industry, a lot of people talk about finishing the story, getting these milestones done. I'm barely starting, and it's really hard for me to find my wiggle room, maybe in a sense I haven't found myself yet, and it'll blossom eventually. But all I can say is, hey, I worked hard for this, and I welcome everybody to begin the story with me.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. Alfredo Albiter. Hey, thanks so much for the time, Fredo. Good luck. The show is going to be March 9th. March 9th. It's called Run the Ropes, Freelance Wrestling Academy student show. You definitely want to check it out. You can buy tickets. You can also watch on IWTV. You can follow Freelance Wrestling Academy on Instagram, and you can find the Freelance Wrestling in general on Instagram as well for updates and a full card for Run the Ropes. Fredo, man, thank you. Good luck. We'll be looking forward to seeing how you do, man.
I appreciate it, Zach. I hope to see you soon, man. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.